Today I'm joined by the Fogcast, also known as Jake Foghorn. And so how are you today?
Yes, I'm very good, thank you, Noah. I hope you're well too. And thanks for having me on today.
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, Jake. And no worries, always a pleasure to speak to you. So question one, how long have you been a Harlow Town and a Leyton Orient fan for?
So, yeah, the first Harlow game I went to was on the 8th of November 2008. It was Harlow Town versus Macclesfield, and we lost 2-0. A month previous to that, I'd been to my first ever game of any team. And I thought, why not? I went down. It was really busy, big crowd. Harlow played very well, actually, and kind of fell in love with it ever since. And we went every Saturday home game from there for about a season and a half. And then I went to my first Leyton Orient game in, I think it was around November 2009. Yet again, another FA Cup game for Leyton Orient versus Tranmere. And the O's lost 1-0. I went with my granddad.
Quite a while then. And so are they your favourite memories of Harlow and Leyton Orient, or do you have any other memories?
Um, I guess my favourite Harlow Town memory has got to be the playoff final when we beat Hornchurch 4-1. I think it was 2016, if memory serves me correct. That was a great moment. Obviously, all my friends were there. Like, the whole of Harlow was there, really. A lot of people turned up that day. Leyton Orient, there's been a few. Obviously, the playoff final at Wembley up until half-time was one of the best days of my life. We won't talk about what happened after that. But probably like a rogue outsider for my best Leyton Orient memory, which probably is not going to be most fans, is the first night I was sat in the North Stand, and it was against Norwich. Me and my granddad were always in the West Stand, and I always wanted to go in the North Stand because as a kid, that's where you wanted to be. Kind of, you go through the ranks and you end up in the South Stand. And it was Norwich at home. There was yellow and green scarves everywhere. And it was just a magical night under the lights, and Sean Fulton scored two, and the O's won 2-0.
So question three, as you're like a big non-league fan, because Harlow and Woodford and all the other clubs you go to and documentaries you do, what is your favourite non-league memory?
A difficult question, to be fair, because there has been quite a few. Obviously, you've got Harlow games and stuff like that, and there's been some absolute banter I've had with Woodford and doing commentaries. I guess my personal favourite non-league memory is when I was a commentator. Somebody I know called Alfie Gates at the time. He was the media man at Concord Rangers. He's now at Dorking Wanderers. We went to Chelmsford versus Concord Rangers away, and I co-commentated with him. And that's kind of where really I got my taste for wanting to do commentary. And it was a really good experience. It was one of those games which I think for 80 minutes out of the 90, it was boring. It was a terrible match. But in the last 10 minutes, it absolutely stormed off. And I believe it finished 2-2. And then I got to interview former Leyton Orient player Sammy Moore. I interviewed Jack Midson after the game as well. And I kind of knew a couple of the Concord lads from Twitter and stuff like that. So it's a very good day, actually. That's probably my standout non-league memory in terms of a career prospect so far.
You said there you've done commentaries and obviously you spoke to a lot of the players. So you follow non-league, I follow non-league, and there's like James Beardwell for like Whittam, and you've got Mark Davidson for Tonbridge and Nathan Holt for Ebbsfleet. But why should other people follow non-league football?
I guess with non-league football, it is like Marmite. You either love it or hate it. If you're expecting to go to non-league football and see world-class football, you're not going to. That's no disrespect to anyone that plays non-league football. You're not going to see world-class football. But it's a togetherness. Most people who support non-league teams support their local town, where they live, or where they're brought up, or where they now live. And you've got people that support Tottenham, that support Arsenal, that support West Ham, that support Orient, that support Southend, all together and united for their local team. You chat to the players, you talk to the players like they're friends. there's more social media activity with it. And really, I guess non-league football is about the community, and it's about more more the kind of the day itself rather than the game. It's about meeting up with friends. It's about taking your grandkids, your kids, to the football and kind of giving them an insight into what's happening locally. And it is a community thing at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, non-league clubs do like bring fans and fans, families and friends closer together. So it is, like you said, the community thing. And it's like the more people you can get to go, the better your team like will play. So like better atmosphere, and also they appreciate everyone coming up because, as you said, it's not going to be world class football. It is what it is, and like if your team don't perform on the day, like all the fans have just got to stand together and continue supporting them because when they turn around, they can turn around and go on a long winning run. So that's how crazy non-league is. So you can have one bad performance and go on a run for 10 games straight. So, so you spoke about you and your granddad going up to Leighton Orient a couple of times. And so has football been a big part of your life, or have you like, just got into it yourself? Or so yeah, has your family always been a footballing family? Or yeah.
Yeah, no, I've always loved football. When I was a kid, they said if I knew as much about my subjects as I did about football, then I'd be an A-star student. But I've always loved football. Mum doesn't really understand what football is. I think she still thinks you pick the football up and run with it. Um, Dad's a Tottenham fan. Granddad's Orient. My uncle's a West Ham. I've got an uncle who's Man United. Great uncles at QPR. So there's not really one team that the whole family supports. Because I guess coming like from both sides of the family and stuff like that. But I've always loved football, even when I was a kid. And then, like I say, I've been going to games since I was 13 years old. I went to England versus Kazakhstan. That was my first game. Kind of my only regret, which nothing I can personally do, but what I will be doing for my kids, is as soon as they're old enough to basically go an hour without needing their nappy changed, they're going to the football. They're not going to have a choice. They will be brought up. And when they have a choice, that's when they can make their choice whether they like football or not. But yeah, to me, football's the world. I love football. Everything to do with football, do you know what I mean? World Cups, Euros, Premier League, non-league football. It's all brilliant.
Yeah, I get what you mean by football's brilliant and football's everything. I mean, like football's basically second family for me. I mean, like my cousin works for Leighton Orient and supports Ipswich and Orient, and then my other cousin supports Ipswich. My mum's a Spurs, my dad's Liverpool, and then basically on my mum's side are Spurs as well. So we're mainly a Spurs family, but yeah, football has been a big part of my life as well as like school and that because you know. But yeah, so what do you think the best thing about non-league is? Do you think it's like you can be close with the players? Obviously, you've also got the freedom of where you stand as well. And so yeah, what do you think the best thing about non-league is?
It's a, it's a hard question because I love non-league. I don't see it as non-league football. Do you get what I mean? I just see it as football. I don't see it as, oh, I'm going to watch non-league football. I see it as the same as when my mates are like, oh, I'm going to West Ham versus Norwich today, or I'm going to Tottenham versus United, or Crystal Palace versus Crew, or whatever. I kind of see it as I'm going to the football, and it is, you meet up with your mates on the terrace, you have your banter, like you say, you can stand where you want in most grounds. I'm not condoning smoking, but as a smoker, you can smoke in most grounds, which when when your team's playing badly, that comes in handy. It mellows you out, believe me. You can drink outside, and yeah, there's a lot of banter. You can have banter with the players. Obviously, sometimes it does overstep the mark. You've got to kind of be a little bit more careful because you will get found out if you say something that you shouldn't say. But yeah, for me, it's the whole package. Everything that comes with non-league football is affordable. It's local. It's obviously mostly local, and then big days where you get that big FA Cup draw in the first round, or you get that big draw in the FA Trophy, and you beat someone like Harlow beat Isley 2-0. They're really good memories to have, and yeah, I guess really that's kind of my sum up on what the best thing about non-league football is.
So, who do you think are the best non-league fans? I mean, like you've got James Beardwell, who's very passionate about Witham. You've like, got Mark Davidson, as I said, who's about Tonbridge, and you're about Harlow, and I'm Stortford. But like not like the teams group, but like the individuals who put the passion into their club. So, who do you think are like the top five best non-league fans?
To be honest, mate, I wouldn't say there's five individual best fans. And the reason I wouldn't do that is because not every single supporter broadcasts themselves on social media. So it's not fair for me to say this is the best supporter from this club, this is the best supporter, because there's going to be supporters that I don't know because they're not in the social media limelight. They don't have YouTube channels. They don't post on Twitter or have fans channels or stuff like that. So I wouldn't really, to be honest, want to say that there's five best supporters.
I get what you mean. I mean, obviously, like James does loads, and like he posts it all on YouTube. But yeah, and like you do your stuff as well. I sometimes put stuff on, not rarely, but yeah. And yeah, I understand what you mean. So moving away from non-league, who is your favourite footballer of all time? So that can be current or like past or whenever. But yeah, who's your favourite footballer?
Yes, if you've got to say to me who was my like kind of childhood idol growing up in terms of footballer, it's Dean Cox from Leighton Orient. I thought he's a sensational player. He's still playing now for Eastbourne Borough. I think funnily enough, we actually have a few conversations here and there, and have a couple of chats. Not going to go into too much detail about them because that's stuff that's coming up hopefully coming up in the future. But I won't release that information yet. But yeah, Dane Cox for me was probably my favourite player growing up. In terms of obviously who do I think the best player in the world is, I don't think you can say anyone other than Lionel Messi. Obviously, I watched Ronaldinho growing up, so he's kind of up there as well, along with the number 9 Ronaldo, the Brazilian Ronaldo. But I guess if you're going to say best player in the world, it's got to be Lionel Messi.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I do think Messi is the best player in the world. So what is your favourite away day as either a neutral or as a specific team fan?
I guess my favourite away game, or away day, should I say, not necessarily game. You can't look past when Southend play Orient, going to Southend away. It's a rivalry. Yes, that's probably not necessarily my favourite match I've been to on an away day, but definitely my favourite away day.
Final question: where will Harlow and Leyton Orient finish this season in both their respective leagues?
In terms of Harlow Town, I'd be extremely disappointed if we didn't finish in the playoffs. I think we have to finish in the playoffs. Whether we win them or not is a totally different story. But we've got to finish in the playoffs. And I think with Orient, probably mid-table, I reckon. That would be my kind of guess for the O's.
I'd be surprised if Harlow do make the playoffs. Obviously, they're a bigger club than most other teams in your league. And as for Orient, after everything that's happened, I think mid-table they've done extremely well. And that's where I do predict Orient to finish this year, somewhere in the mid-tables. And so, thank you for joining me today, Jake, and hopefully we'll do something else like this later on, either this season or in the coming seasons. But yeah, thanks for your time and have a good day. And everyone, if you could follow Jake on Insta, Twitter, and YouTube as well. And also follow yourleague.tv for more content from Jake.